On the Fox Report, I'm Harris Faulkner. Fox News has obtained the draft of the report on the terror attack on our consulate in Benghazi, Libya. It's from the House Oversight Committee. Congressional GOP staffers have compiled it. And among the findings, it shows the way that a State Department panel investigated that attack has raised several questions about whether it was acting impartially. The report shows that panel played down policy decisions that came from top officials, and that it never fully investigated then Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's role in those decisions. It's also worth noting the chairman, House Committee that I mentioned, is California Republican Darrell Issa. He's been one of the most vocal critics of how the Obama administration handled the killings of Americans on September 11th of last year. This is a key week for looking at what happened that night, you may know. 3 more congressional hearings on Benghazi are scheduled, including another one with Congressman Issa's committee. Terrorists killed American Ambassador Christopher Stevens that night, intelligence officer Sean Smith, and former Navy SEALs Glenn Doherty and Tyrone Woods. Our Catherine Herridge has been digging through this draft report since first obtaining it. She's live now in Washington with the news. And Catherine, what pops out as some of the main points we need to know?
Well, Harris, according to this draft obtained by Fox News and prepared by investigators for the Republican chairman of the House Government Oversight Committee, Darrell Issa, the State Department investigation into Benghazi, touted by the Obama administration as thorough and uncompromising, was in fact flawed. Republican investigators say their findings raise questions about the investigation's impartiality, whether there were conflicts of interest, and whether the interviews were thorough. As one example, the draft states that the investigation's co-chair, Ambassador Thomas Pickering, confirmed his team had the authority to conduct depositions and the authority to issue subpoenas, but those options were never used. Instead, they relied heavily on summaries of group and individual interviews. As for an alleged conflict of interest, in at least one instance, Cheryl Mills, who was Mrs. Clinton's chief of staff, was given advance warning that her questioning before the Accountability Review Board, or ARB, would be rough. The draft interim report also alleges that the State Department's unwillingness to provide all of the working documents from the ARB made an independent assessment by this congressional committee very difficult, Harris.
Yeah, you know, it just doesn't talk about the State Department in totality. It names specific members and leaders at the State Department, and now I understand we've received the response from the department. What's State saying?
Well, that's right, Harris. From the White House to the State Department, when the ARB was released last December, it was promoted as an aggressive investigation with no stone left unturned. In fact, all of the report's 29 recommendations were accepted. Today, Fox News asked the State Department to respond to the draft report's claims, and specifically that the blame was not properly affixed at the most senior levels of the State Department, including Under Secretary for Management Patrick Kennedy, who signed off on the Benghazi operation with substandard security. Also, the report faults the ARB for not thoroughly exploring Mrs. Clinton's role in dictating the policy on the ground in Benghazi. The State Department responding a short time ago, quote, to suggest anything has been hidden or that accountability has been averted requires willful ignorance of these facts. The leaders of the ARB, Ambassador Thomas R. Pickering and Admiral Mike Mullen, have said publicly that they had unfettered access to everyone. As you mentioned, the Government Oversight Committee will be holding their hearings on the 19th, where Pickering and Mullen will be witnesses and specifically questioned about the process they used in the ARB, Harris.
And tonight, Catherine, too, this is being called a draft. There are 100 pages in totality, and so we expect to see the rest of this win.
Probably early next week. We were told that there would not be fundamental changes to the language or to the actual findings themselves, Harris.
All right, Catherine Herridge, we'll bring you back a little bit later because you are now reading all of this. I'm kind of going through it as well, and we'll break it down with our first guest this hour. Catherine, we'll come to you a little bit later. Thank you.